The final stage of grief is acceptance. The obscure man was approaching me with a calm demeanor, which made him even more frightening. Can't we just skip the other 4? There's only 2 outcomes for you here. I didn't respond, causing him to sigh. It was less of an attempt at defiance and more to do with being at a loss for words. Okay, how about I introduce myself, get us acquainted. I'm Shen. You? Pete, I told him. Okay, Pete. Believe me when I tell you that there will not be another chance like this for you. Right now, Trent is in a good mood. But once he finishes converting the rest of the school children into cannon fodder for his army, he's gonna go on a fucking rampage. At that point, it'll be too late for you. He's not entirely there in the head, so you can't really try reasoning with him, you know? Besides, I'm trying to get on his good side by converting competent soldiers. If you're trying to recruit people, why'd you kill Axwell? I asked him, feeling a momentary hint of anger amongst my general shock. He shook his head. Who? Look, if I killed one of your cop buddies, then boo-hoo. Like I'd even give a semblance of a fuck. I'm only after the strong anyway. I scoffed. Well, I don't know what the hell you want with me then. You should have tried recruiting that guy you just killed. He seemed strong. Shin stood up, letting out a sigh. Sure, that meathead had decent physical strength. But look where that got him. I chopped his head like a melon. Then look at you. You're still alive. You could do the same to me. How am I different? Listen, you dense fucker. It's true that I could kill you right now, but I'm choosing not to. Fuck what you think being strong means. The stuff you've been fed by Hollywood and the media and shit. That's all nonsense. The strong are the ones that end up surviving. Self-preservation is the only thing that matters. If you can punch holes through buildings but end up getting taken out by a bigger fish right after, how are you anything but weak? He slammed his hand down on my shoulder in what I assumed was supposed to be an encouraging pat. However, I could feel it be dislocated by the impact. You're still alive, huh? Have some confidence in yourself. I reeled from the pain, causing Shin to chuckle. I can't lie, though. You normal humans sure are fragile. He put his hand back on my shoulder, softer this time, and I could feel my bones shifting back into place, with my pain being alleviated at the same time. I was stunned, hardly comprehending what just happened. What the hell did you just do? I asked him. Not only does my own body regenerate, I can heal others as well. I'm basically Jesus, aren't I? Maybe I should start calling myself the Messiah instead. Is there a difference between the two? I don't know. But don't get too excited. I stand by what I said earlier. There's only 2 options for you. Either you willingly undergo the transformation right now, or I beat you down until you do. What do you... Before I could finish my question, he stomped down, effortlessly crushing my kneecap. I always thought I had a decent pain tolerance, but I never could have been prepared for something like this. Enough? You want to come with me now? But despite the excruciating, overwhelming pain, I didn't concede. For whatever esoteric reason, my mind was stubborn, barring me from giving in. Maybe I really just hated the idea of turning into some demon creature. Or maybe it was something else. Another driving force I couldn't explicitly identify. Well, shit. One leg is usually all it takes. But don't think I'm gonna heal you up and let you go like that, eh? Why are you doing this? Why are you following that guy? I asked him through the pain, hoping to stall more than anything else. You really think that guy's some savior? Shin chuckled. I'm not a fucking idiot, so of course not. Trent's just an overpowered lunatic. Unlike him, I'm not some clown-tier cartoon villain. I'm just rational. But right now, I stand zero chance if I were to take him on. If you can't beat him, then join them until you can beat them. What's his goal? What's he even trying to do? Trent, I mean. Well, what happens when a really psychotic guy gains godlike powers through an arcane ritual of roots dating back to the inception of mankind, one that involves killing over 250 people, each in an extremely obscure manner over the course of 15 years? As you can see, shit hits the fan, and the rest of us end up scrambling. He squatted down, getting eye level with me. I told you, didn't I? When the storm hits, the strong always find a way to survive. It's a simple rule. Don't you understand? He smiled at me and I refused to respond. Let's see just how long this tenacity lasts. One of his arms abruptly transformed into a slimy xenomorph-like mouth with rows upon rows of jagged teeth. Now this is going to hurt. A lot. But all you need to say is a few words to make it all stop. I can only remember the following half hour as a blur. The pain was followed by moments of fleeting numbness, only to return with even more intensity. Shin must have dealt me 50 fatal blows, only to heal them up and repeat the process right after. He'd slice me in half at the torso, stomp on my ribs, crush my legs, etc. At a point, I lost consciousness after choking on my own blood, only to be awakened seconds later as my jaw dislocated. What's the principle behind this persistence? You got a chip on your shoulder or something? I could only wheeze out a response. Despite getting dangerously close to my breaking point, I was operating under the logic that there was no point in giving in if I'd already been pushed so far. Live on your feet or just fucking die. My old man's words popped into my head. He'd always been kind of an asshole, but at that moment I clung on to his advice. The whole situation was ridiculous. The torture was simply an attempt to get me to convert, and I couldn't fathom why the guy seemed so hung up on it. But the further he went, the more my mind was beginning to adapt. The pain was nearly impossible to endure for the first few minutes. After 10 minutes, it was only somewhat excruciating. After 20, I was beginning to get used to it. And after 30, I was laughing. It was as if a switch had been flipped in my brain. Maybe he really had driven me to some transitory state of madness. My rationality had faded, with the torture session suddenly seeming utterly absurd as opposed to anything else. Even Chen seemed surprised at my reaction. Oh, come on. This is getting frustrating. Did I mess your brain up? I made sure not to touch it. He furrowed his brow. Or is it just your inner willpower manifesting? Maybe you got some shit going on that I'm not aware of. His arms reverted back to the normal form from the flesh saws he'd been using to hack me up with. Despite him fully healing me up, the pain still lingered throughout my entire body. Either way, this isn't going to work. He stretched out his arms before fixing his blood-stained collar. My blood, mind you. Guess I'll just have to let you go. Those words were enough to snap me back to reality. In my excitement, I tried to stop myself saying something stupid that might change his mind. But like I said, I'm an idiot. Yeah, good, I stammered out. He gave me a confused squint before explaining his decision. The transformation likely wouldn't have worked on you regardless. You could say I was testing you out here. Those with strong enough wills to end up resisting it. No point in trying to convert somebody who can't be converted. Can't say you haven't earned my respect, though. Guess I'll leave it like this. He turned and began heading towards the door. Shit's still crazy out there. Let's see if you can survive this. He grinned at me once more. If you manage to make it out of here alive, I might just have to admit you're stronger than me. Also, don't tell Trent that I let you go. If you see him, of course. And with that, he was gone, leaving me with a faint, stinging sensation throughout my body. What a fucking weirdo, I thought to myself. But I was still alive, now more determined than ever to keep it that way. I stayed put until my senses had stabilized, only leaving when a veiny eye stalk burst through the ground in front of me. Shin was right. It was still as dangerous as ever. I traversed through the area, avoiding any potential conflicts, until I came across somebody familiar in one of the corridors. A large man wearing heavily damaged armor and a skull mask. "Kaz?" I called out to him. The bulky figure turned around.
"Oh, it's you. What happened? Your clothes are all torn up."
Yeah. We need to get out of here. Kaz nodded, seemingly clutching his chest in pain.
"Couldn't agree more."
What happened to you? I asked, approaching him. Did you beat Trent? He shook his head.
"Not even close. He ripped one of my hearts out a few seconds after you left."
Oh, that sucks. And then I thought about what he'd said. Wait, one of them? He nodded.
"I had 4. 3 now. I just pretended to play dead."
I nodded, not really needing or wanting a further explanation.
"I already called it in. We can't deal with this guy. Nobody in our division can. Except for one. They're sending in the big gun."
And who's that? Kaz let out a big exhale.
"Judas."
The tone in his voice as he said it was rather alarming, almost as if he was naming the devil himself. So this Judas guy, he's gonna come and fix all this?
"Well, he'll probably be able to kill Trent. The problem is, he'll probably kill everybody else in the process. He's like a somewhat sentient natural disaster. Any place he gets assigned to usually ends up getting wiped off the face of the earth. In fact, there's a good chance that every single person in this town will die if the fight lasts long enough. The cover-up process gets complicated afterwards. I'm glad I'm not a desk guy, but yeah, you could say he's quite the nuisance. And that's why we gotta get the hell out of here before he shows up. I used to have 6 hearts, you know? But then I got caught up in the aftermath of one of his little outings."
Kaz started walking and I followed. Well, if this guy's so volatile, then why does the government let him out?
"Obviously for situations like these,"
Kaz responded.
"They're willing to sacrifice a smaller town as opposed to nuking the whole place or something. And honestly, I'm willing to bet that Trent could survive a nuke. He'll probably eventually wipe out a good portion of the earth if we don't kill him now. Let's call Judas a necessary disaster."
Jesus, I muttered.
"Also,"
He continued.
"the government has no way of controlling him regardless. At the moment, they've somewhat managed to brainwash him into embracing the good old American ideals. But I reckon he could change his mind and snap at any moment. And then we're all done for. Better get on his good side whilst we can."
So what the hell is this guy then?
"Who knows? Nobody but the top echelon officials with the highest clearance has any idea about him. Kinda scary to think about."
Now, I'd never been a conspiracy theory buff, but I did my fair share of research into the matter. But even then, I never could have imagined something like this. After about 5 minutes of walking, Kaz said he needed a rest for a bit, given his injuries. We'd taken refuge in another classroom ever since. There's a rotting corpse in here, but every other room we'd come across had been occupied by something far worse. Right now, we're trying to figure something out. A plan, so to speak. But Kaz estimates we have somewhere between 40 to 2 hours before Judas arrives. This isn't even a matter of hiding until backup arrives anymore. The situation has become immensely fucked, and we need to find a way out of here. That's the new objective. But given the circumstances, that may be tough. I began wondering how a body could already be rotten if Trent invaded only some hours prior. And then the corpse stood up.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing. And if you're an animal lover like me, please consider donating to the World Land Trust, a charity that aims to help wildlife through buying land, preventing development, and helping endangered species.